Tēnā tātou katoa. It's a pleasure to be here with you all tonight. And I would just like to hand it over to Uncle Bernard to open us up with karakia before I continue. Tēnā tātou.
E runga, te te o te ao marama. Hoi nano ka mihi kia tātou. Tēnā koe kuru. Homa nei tēnei honore māku. Nō reira, me tīmata tātou. I te pū kōrero, I te pū ananga pū a whiorangi pū takataka. Te marama hunuku, te marama hurangi. A toko te ki te wao tūtū, te wini tū, te wana tū, te ruputeni ki te whaia, te marama. Turu atai, turu auta, turu whakamaua mai kia tīna. Aumie, uie. Aira, taike kia tātou. Tēnā hoki koutou e ngā kai whakarite, ngā kai whakahere o tēnei huhinga. O tira kia koutou mākatoa. Tēnā koutou kia ora hui kai ngō tātou. Kia ora.
Nau mai piki mai e ngā iwi e ngā reo ngā mana tēnā rā koutou katoa. Tēnei rā te tū, ki whakahoki ake i ngā mihi, ai kara, ai te rangatira e ako Bernard, nau te arawhata ki te wāhingaro, I para, kia tai mai ngā manaakitanga o te wāhingaro ki runga ki a tātou, I tēnei huihuitanga o tātou, I tēnei pōno reira. Tēnā koe o tira, tātou. I te kona, te whare tū nei, tātou ngā iwi, tēnā koutou katoa. E te hunga mate koutou kōrero atu ki te kupenga nui a tara mai nuku koutou ki te pō. Tātou, ngā uru pāo rātou mā tēnā koutou. E ao, e te iwi o te tautukera, ko rarau mai nei tēnā tātou katoa. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure to welcome you to the 2025 Candidate Information Evening, co-hosted, of course, by the Far North District Council and the Northland Regional Council here at Te Kona and Te Kaipohepohe. My name is Kauti Waitford. He uri no Ngāti Hine, Ngāti Wai, Ngā Puhi Nui Tonu, me te Rarawa. I was raised in Te Taitokero, live and work in Northland on the Titicaca coast, raised there in the beautiful Matapauri, but I am one who feels very deeply about this region and the people in the community of this region. So it's a pleasure to be a kaituitui, to facilitate the discussion we're going to have this evening. Tonight we gather to begin an important civil process, especially at this moment in time. So I warmly welcome each and every one of us, both here in person, but also online. A little bit of housekeeping. In the event of an emergency evacuation, please exit the building via the back there, and our emergency assembly point is just out the back of the building. Bathrooms are located if you just head out this door and go up here, turn left, you'll see them just there. Medical assistance is also available if needed. We have first aid responders in the room. Lisa, kia ora. Thank you. Anyway, just before we begin, in terms of, this is the point of our evening tonight, is to learn specifically about how to stand as a candidate. Those online, if you have any questions, how many people got? Anyway, we'll cover nomination process, what the roles involve and what to expect along the way. You'll hear from our expert panel. So if you have any questions outside of tonight's topics, please hold on to them until after the event. Our team will be happy to field or discuss any of these with you then. Stay curious, ask those burning questions, and most of all, let's keep it fun. To our online audience, thanks for tuning in. We'll keep an eye on the chat. And if any questions do pop up, Case will field them to the panel. And thank you for coming, braving the dark winter night here. Amazing, tēnā koutou. We also have kai and cup of tea and coffee just out there. Please help yourselves as we proceed during the evening. As I mentioned, the event is being live streamed and recorded. If you'd prefer not to be on camera, now's the time to slip out. No, don't slip out. But a recording will be available on both councils' YouTube channels soon. I'd like to introduce the team. We have the Mayor of Clutha, Brian Codigan, joining us virtually. Tēnā koe e te koro matua. We understand you will not be running in this upcoming election, which is why you are joining us this evening. Our mātanga, our pūkōrero, our expert panel, I'll hand it over to them to introduce themselves. Let's start here with you, Guy, and move across, and then it'll come back to me. Kia ora.
Kia ora mai tātou katoa, ko Guy Holroyd tōku ringa, ko Hauti Whakarai o te Pūrihera o te Ika. Evening everyone, my name's Guy Holroyd, I'm the CEO of the Far North District Council. I live over in Kororareka. I was raised in Auckland, spent most of my career in London, and returned for the North 4 years ago and joined the Ngāti Forestry Trust, where I was CE for 2 years. Today, the 25th of June, is actually the second anniversary of my joining council. So, 2 years ago today, made 2 years, that's pretty good. Nice to see you all here this evening. Looking forward to having the discussion, and hopefully we can shed some light on the business of local government. Thank you.
Nā koutou. My name is Pena Makuare, or Bernard, and I have a seeking suspicion that I have imposter syndrome. And what an introduction. I'm wondering exactly what my expertise is. I'm a carver and a creative, and I work often with Kawiti and Kawiti's mother and other creatives o Toi Ngāpuhi. I hail from the Kaipara. I have connections, strong connections with the Hokianga, also with Ngāpuhi in Te Waimate, Aiamai, and also with Te Aupōuri. I suppose one of the things that I'm most interested in is the reflection of this area and Waitangi. Because of He Whakaputanga in 1835 and also in 1840 to Te Reti o Waitangi, but particularly because of the whare runanga as a carver. That's a space and a place which is special to me. But inside the whare runanga is a plaque with a little phrase, and that phrase is "Wa hau anō tētahi reina." Remember that I was one who was also there. Of course, it's a metaphor for 1840, and I see that that phrase is particularly valid for the electoral process and the political process. So I'm very interested to support that phrase and that thinking to be a part of the legal framework, and I acknowledge all of the people here, including online. Mayor to be amongst us is important. But kua hau anō tētahi I reira. Tēnā koutou katoa.
Kia ora koutou. Tēnā koe matua, motu karakia. Ko Waiahau, ko Taranaki te maunga, ko Whanganui te awa, no Whanganui ahau. Engari, e noho anō ahau te ki tūtakaka. Ko Jonathan Gibbard takuangoa, ko ahau te tāhuhu rangapu o te kaunihera aroki o tētai takarau. Good evening, everybody. Great to see you all here. I'm hoping that staff don't outnumber members of the public who are actually here to listen and ask all of your questions about being an elected member for local government. I'm from Wanganui originally. I've been in the far north. I've been in Northland since 2002. I've come and gone from the Northland Regional Council 3 times. I had the privilege of being the chief executive for the Northern Regional Council now. It's your anniversary date today, I think you said, Guy? 2 years. I joined as the CE 1 week before last elections, so it's coming up to my 3-year anniversary in the role at the Regional Council. Really looking forward to the engagement tonight, and really encourage anyone who's interested in standing for local government to really think about it and encourage you to do so. Kia ora.
Kia ora tātou. My name's Dale Osowski. I'm from Independent Election Services Limited, based in Auckland, and I'm the electoral officer for Far North District Council and Northern Regional Council, and a lot of others around the country, including, of course, the very large Auckland Council. I've been running elections now, and I did a tally for 40 years now. My first one was in 1985, and that was a bit of a milestone for me. So I've seen a lot of elections come and go, a lot of politicians come and go, a lot of issues come and go, and it's really interesting. Every election brings in different issues that we didn't suspect were around the corner. Keeps us all on our toes. So I'm here tonight to help provide any advice or answer any questions that you may have. Kia ora.
Hand it over to you, Mayor Brian.
Thank you. Kia ora katoa, ko Brankadogan, toko ingoa. Can I say how neat it is to reconnect with the far north? My wife and I were up there this year for Waitangi, and we fell in love with the place. We really did. We loved everything about your world. It's so different than ours, and it's such a treat to be back amongst the vibrancy and the hubba that I'm hearing from tonight. A bit about myself. Got off to a pretty rugged start in life, found myself a long time unemployed, took my anger out in the ham piece and the shearing sheds, and managed to share my way, or my wife and I managed to get a farm. Consequently, we straddled quite a few different worlds, and I was able to, with a healthy dose of imposter syndrome, find my way into politics, where, you know, I've quite openly had a social and a financial agenda that I haven't delivered on after 15 years, and that's just politics. I am excited to be with you tonight and share what I can. I'm 109 days away from stepping down after stepping in 1998 when I was the youngest ever councillor. I'm really excited to be with you, and I do mean it when I say to each and every one of you in the room, good on you for at least having the guts to step up and go this far. Let's see where else we can take it. Look forward to tonight. Kia ora, everyone.
Kia ora, tēnā koutou. Our panel, awesome. And also just to remind ourselves in the room, if you have your phone on, just check your phone right now, just in case you don't be that guy that the alarm goes off or a text bings or a ringer. That includes the panel. If you do have a question at any point in the evening, please do raise your hand and we'll field it. I might just repeat for Brian, who's online. But yeah, let's get into it. The first question that I'd like to just open us up with, panel, can you please explain the difference between a regional and a district council? We might have a slide that kind of goes on with that as well.
Kia ora koutou. I wonder if maybe I talk about the functions of the regional council, and Guy, you want to talk about the functions of the district council? So, kia ora koutou. Great question, and it's a really important question as well, because it's really important that if you're thinking about standing for local government, that you stand for the right council. Nothing worse than standing for the regional council and being partway through your term and realising that actually all of the things that I'm passionate about is the role and the function of the district council. So yeah, really important that you do get your head around the different roles and functions. So regional council, we've got roles under the Resource Management Act around natural resources and so around water quality, air quality, the coastal marine area, sediment control, all of those sorts of things. So NRC, we are more around the natural resources and consenting for natural resources. We've also got a lot of other functions though that are outside of the Resource Management Act. So we're responsible for flood control. So for all of the flood management schemes that you see around the region, we've got roles around biosecurity, so pest control, pest management, biodiversity, so enhancing our biodiversity as a region. We have quite a large role in the coastal marine area, so we've got harbour master functions, navigation and safety type functions that we do. Also, oil spill response. We're responsible for oil spills response. Civil defence. Civil defence is one of those ones that we sort of share with the district council, and there are a number of functions that both regional and district council have different roles to play, and civil defence is one of those. Transport's another one. Regional council, we provide a bit of a coordination type role, and we're also responsible for public transport, whereas district councils are responsible for district roads, so not your state highway, but district roads. Both councils, and I'll just cover a few of the ones that both councils are involved in. We're also, we jointly own Northland Inc., which is around regional economic development and advocacy for economic prosperity for our region. We also play a key role around climate resilience. So we've got a strong climate change kaupapa that regional council leads. And again, associated with economic development, I guess, is around infrastructure. We both district and regional councils advocate together on behalf of the region for resilient infrastructure outcomes for our region. Hand over to yourself, Guy, to go through district council.
Thank you, John. Interesting, when I joined Far North District Council, I was still going through the learning process of what does NRC do then, because I'm just figuring out what FNDC does. So my view is, I think you explained that well, but sort of around anything that's region-wide tends to fall with use of resources, environmental issues, etc. The district council is more about providing specific facilities and services. Obviously, we charge rates, and then that revenue base gets applied to all of the facilities that we maintain and own for our ratepayers and residents, and we provide a lot of services. So what I like to say in our new starters porphyry every quarter is you probably don't realise how complex this business is, but pretty much if you're here in Northland, just about everything you touch has something to do with council. If you're walking on a footpath, it's FNDC. If you're launching a boat on a horse ramp, it's FNDC. Going to the library, we provide that. Going to parks and playgrounds, we do that. If you flush the toilet or run the tap, chances are we provide the pipe that connects your house, unless you're obviously on a standalone system. So water infrastructure obviously is a very big one for us. And then, obviously we have 430 odd staff in council, combined P&L of about $200 million and a balance sheet net assets of about $2.7 billion. So it's a significant business, and it's a complex business. So just the machinery that operates all of those functions is quite complex in terms of our democracy services support, to our support for elected members, running all of the proper protocols for running our council meetings and providing information, our workshopping with councillors to keep them up to speed on various topics, our consultation with communities on a large proportion of the things that we do. So it's a complex business. I think I could go on, but hopefully that paints the picture that like specific facilities, specific services, that's what we're all about.
If I could just quickly put a plug, each CEO has to produce a pre-election report. And a pre-election report provides a really good basis if you're trying to have a look and seeing what are the functions and what are the key things that councils are currently doing and that they anticipate doing over the next 3 years. I will have produced a pre-election report for Far North District Council. I've produced one for the Northern Regional Council, and I'd encourage you to go and have a look at the pre-election reports, which really outline who we are, what we do, and what's coming up over the next 3 years.
Good on. Mayor Clutha.
Thank you for that. Could I please add a political slant? Because around the country, I think there's 5 unitary authorities where they have district and regional meshed together, but most of us are separated. I openly said that I've got a social agenda. I'm not an environmentalist, and consequently, I've never felt that regional council was for me. I'm more of a district council person, but I think it's important as a candidate to know the hierarchical structure. National policy statement flows into regional policy statement, which is your regional council, and then down into your district council. I've got no problem with that. We're at the bottom of the pecking order, but that's okay. I function from a social perspective. So when you are considering, know that there is the hierarchical structure as well, because there's been a time where our council got prosecuted by our regional council. So we're friends, but there's a bite to the friendship.
Kia ora. Here's a question. If I'm considering standing for both Far North District Council Mayor and Te Hiku General Ward, how much am I allowed to spend on my campaign? Can I combine both spending for both? And what are the rules around campaign expenditure in this case? And I think I'll look at you, Dale, first and foremost.
So no, you can't combine them. You have a limit for the mayoral candidates for Far North of $40,000. So that's your limit. And if you're standing for the Te Hiku General Ward, you have a limit of $14,000, and you cannot add those together to have $54,000 to spend. You take the highest. So if you're standing for both, you have the maximum, which is $40,000 for the mayoralty. What are the rules around that? There is limits to, as I said, to what you can spend. There is a return that you have to fill out after the election as part of your nomination paper. Be very careful. Make sure that it's filled out correctly. That's the guide to make sure that you don't spend over your limit. It is a public document. It does go on the council website. Must be available for 7 years under the legislation. So it's a really important document that anyone can view for 7 years. You can actually receive donations. So in your campaign, you can receive donations. There's actually no limit to what money you can get in as a donation. What was I going to say? You can receive anonymous donations as well. Okay, that's a truly anonymous donation. So someone slips $100 under your front door mat or something like that, that's truly anonymous. But if you know who the person is, you can't say it's anonymous. Okay, so if it exceeds the $1,500, it cannot by law. And if it does, it comes to me as the electoral officer, who then passes on to the council to help offset the cost of the election. So just some rules around that just to be mindful of.
Sure.
Dale, because of the different sizes of the ward, the ward is smaller.
Yep.
Most wards in the country are 5 to 10,000. The Kirikiri Whangaroa ward is upwards of 32 to 35,000. Is that proportionate, or is that the same amount of spending money?
It goes by population.
Yes.
So there's bands under the local electoral act that says between this number of people and this number of people, you can spend this amount. So, if you're just over 10,000 population, 10,350, you switch into the next higher band. But if you're 9,850, you're in the lower band. So it does go on the population. Yeah.
Oh, Brian.
Yeah, sorry, I'm talking too much, but the number one important thing for anyone tonight seriously considering being a mayor is the cost that you can do yourself in the election of running for both mayor and councillor. Time and again, you've got to work out whether you're going for the doctor or not, because if you give a person a choice of 2 ticks, you've probably cost yourself the election. I'm a firm believer if you run for mayor, you run only as mayor, and if you're standing on your goals and your outcomes, then if you lose, get out of it. Don't do a 50-cent mixture and try and be a councillor. But the biggest decision if you're going to stand for mayor is you've got to work out whether you got the gumption to go for the doctor or whether you're going to 50-cent mixture it. And I believe cost yourself the election by also ticking the box for the councillor. Sorry to intervene. I'll stop putting my hand up.
You're fine.
One more thing I should have said. Any money that you spend on your campaign is your money or donated money. It's not council money. So over the years, I've had people coming along and say, when do I get my money back? I said, well, what money? Well, I've just spent $5,000 on my campaign. When does the council pay me for it? That doesn't happen. So it has to be your money from donations or your own bank account.
Right. Communication channels. How do elected members manage to stay available for all people in their community, and what technology or communication channels work the best? Panel.
I'll agree with that at the start. Look, I think communications channels, it's a personal thing for councillors. Whichever, there are multiple channels out there. Some people prefer social media and online channels, and those are very effective at being able to connect with a wide range of people. Also, you've got face-to-face communications channels, and there's a lot of value in being able to get out there and meet with your community and have face-to-face engagement with your community. And I guess I'd recommend using all of the channels. You know, if you just go face-to-face or you just go social media, then you're missing out on some that aren't using that as a form of communication.
It's an opportunity too, because those of us that have our Malay and Hapu networks, there's an opportunity to draw upon that. We're always attending, especially this time of the year, Matariki. There's always Matariki events, and but there's also an opportunity to encourage participation in voting, and to also get to know not just the ones who are successful in being elected, but get to know the people who have put themselves forward. It's a door that swings both ways. And if I go back to that phrase that I said at the beginning, remember, your community are the ones that are also there. Sometimes I think, I don't mean to speak disparagingly about our government and local government infrastructure, but sometimes it can seem like everybody's so busy they forget that there's actually real people that live in the community. That was my 2 cents.
From my perspective, yeah, there's a few tricks that I've learned over the years. There's also a few tricks that I've missed out on. I'm a boomer, so I haven't used social media well. I've only really found out in the last couple of months the true strength of that. And it has caused friction in the community because I haven't had that instantaneous engagement that's expected. But a couple of the tricks that I do is I will never ever have a meeting in my office. I always meet at a cafe, and every time you go there, you meet someone else, and you've got to be seen, be seen. I also go to functions just to go there to mingle, and you bump into the people, and that takes tension out. And then once a year, I do what's called my soapbox, and it's around either the annual plan or the long-term plan. And I get on a soapbox and I go for it. And we're a huge district like yourself. We've got a whole lot of wee communities. So it takes 3 weeks of the consultation process to get right around. But it does take tension out. But I will say one thing in engagement, especially for new councillors, and you've got to figure who you want to engage with, because there's a growing tiny sector of our community. They have a lot of issues, and they will take up 99% of your time, and all of a sudden they'll take up more than your time. They become too focused, they become engaged, they start involving your family, your friends, your everything. So as a first-term councillor, be very careful who you openly engage with, and keep it professional, because if you open up too much, they'll take you out.
Sage advice.
Kia ora. Just around conflicts of interest, what happens if a councillor strongly disagrees personally, on that personal note, with a council decision or has a personal interest in a certain outcome? Seems?
I guess you could break it down to a couple of things, but if they have to follow the council processes in terms of voting on the resolutions, council. If it goes against their opinion, it's kind of tough luck. They can come back at it in a subsequent meeting by notice of motion to raise something else. But and then the other one is if there's a conflict of interest. So if they're pushing something on a personal agenda because it benefits them financially or something, then that needs to be disclosed separately and very clearly as a result.
If I can just add to Guy's response as well, councillors are able to have their personal views on topics, and like Guy said, it's the majority decision that is the position of council. And as a councillor, you need to be able to, even if you didn't vote in support of that particular decision, you need to be able to explain that that is what the council decision is. That's not to say that you're gagged from saying what your personal view is. You can still say what your personal view is and how you voted, but you've got to make it really clear that this is not the position of council. This is my personal view on it. The position of council is what the majority decision was.
And just on that note, in terms of those decision-making processes, you said by majority vote, kapai. How quickly can things change, and what types of decisions go through, what types of processes to be made in terms of briefings and workshops, big decisions versus small things?
Each council will have their own sort of process, and Guy might want to talk about the process for FNDC. For NRC, we run workshops with council. So the process that you lead through for a decision is proportionate to the degree and significance of the decision. If it's decisions around an annual plan or a long-term plan, so big budgetary and financial decisions, you'll put out a draft out to the community. You'll get community consultation. You'll hear submissions on it. You'll then go and do deliberations before there's actually a decision on it. If there is a decision on a key topic, but it's a big decision, you might do workshops. I guess the key part for staff at council is we provide all the support. Our job is to provide support to elected members so that by the time it comes to the decision, you feel well informed about the advantages, the disadvantages, the pros and cons, opportunity costs, all of those sorts of things in making the decision. So a small decision, probably straight to a council meeting, no further discussion. There's all the material in one council agenda paper. If it's a big decision, then we may have a couple of months worth of workshops leading up to it to be able to flesh out what the options are. You guys can tease out what the different options are before it goes to a council meeting and council decision. So it's proportionate to the significance of the decision being made.
Thanks, John. There's a whole range of ways decisions can be made. There's the lightning bolt decisions, I like to call them, where you get a notice of motion at a council meeting, comes out of the blue. Next thing you had a vote on it, and a decision's been made, and you weren't even expecting it 5 minutes before. So it can happen very fast. For the big fundamental decisions, there's usually significant and lengthy processes that go on, and a very good example of that right now is local waters done well, our waters infrastructure. And that's ongoing because the previous government had 3 waters, which was a significant body of work. But with local waters done well, there's 3 pieces of legislation. We've only got the second one so far, so we're still learning as we go. But at the same time, we've been tasked with finding a solution for our waters infrastructure. And we've essentially been given a choice of 5 options under the legislation, which is around keeping the business in-house, getting a combined a council-controlled entity or a combined entity. So just to sort of delve into that a little bit, there's an enormous amount of education that has to go on there because there's a lot of detailed subject matter. And so we have to workshop that with councillors, and that involves getting specialists in engineers, legal opinions, etc., etc. So we workshop all the subject matter, and then we go through the process of, well, how are we going to get to a conclusion on this? Do we want to keep our waters infrastructure in-house? Do we want to put together a combined council CCO, which takes in the whole region and includes Kaipara and Whangarei in partnership? So right now, last year we went through a process of workshopping the different options that we faced, trying to come up with a third option. Then we went to consultation with communities to get communities' views on it. That's a very important step with a lot of big decisions, which gets triggered by our significance and engagement policy. We never really got to a conclusion before we then embarked on another process of workshopping the combined council-controlled organisation, so a region-wide solution. And to do that, we formed a combined elected member working group. So we have 3 councillors from each council. They meet every fortnight and are going into some quite detailed workshops. They will then go back to each of their home councils and promote whatever idea that the combined working group has come up with. So you can see that that's a very long and convoluted process, which will all in will run for the best part of 18 months. So it's quite a long, detailed, ongoing process.
Brian, do you have your hand up still?
Yeah, if I could please. Yeah, just from a political perspective, I think as a councillor, if you strongly disagree, you can probably get away once a term with airing it, but you'll burn some political collateral, and if you constantly do it, you'll ostracise yourself. You'll be out. As a mayor, a very dangerous game to strongly disagree against your council, and there's been times where I've had to suck it up. It's irritated the hell out of me, but you just have to say the party political broadcast and get it over and done with, because if you bag your council as a mayor, you're asking for trouble. It's going to come back and get you. So, councillor, maybe you could do it once a term. Mayor, don't go near bagging your council or you're finished.
Sure. And just a segue from that, it's a really good point raised, is that when you come into council, you're going to have a whole lot of ideas about what you want to achieve in your time in council, because why else are you standing? So you're passionate about a particular topic or subject or thing that you want to get done. Key to remember is that you still need to get the majority vote of your other councillors around the table to be able to actually affect any change. So I think that's partly what the mayor was also talking about, is that you need to be able to come into council and be able to work as a team with your other councillors, talk about particular topics, be able to navigate that, and sometimes you need to make compromises along the way to be able to actually get a majority of the councillors that are there to support an outcome and make a decision and do something differently. I've seen councillors come in with a really strong passion about a particular topic, and it hasn't gone anywhere because they haven't been able to get the majority support of other councillors across.
Just coming back to the election campaign itself, if I wanted to stand as a candidate for the district or regional councils, when am I allowed to begin my election campaign? Dale?
Anytime. You could have started it by now. There's no time limit to start. Obviously, there's a time limit to stop, because once voting stops, there's no point in there. But so you can be campaigning now. There is a restriction, however, if you want to put up hoardings, election signs. There's a council bylaw that restricts that to 9 weeks. I think that's from the 9th of August. There is a time period for those. And if you do put those up, they must be removed by midnight the day before the election, which is the 10th of October.
When and how will candidates be notified of the election results?
So voting will close at midday on Saturday, the 11th of October. We will have some results, they're called progress results, early afternoon on that day. And that will be the results of everything received except for the votes hand-delivered on the Saturday morning and the special votes. So on the Sunday, we will have what's called a preliminary result. So we would have counted all the votes that have been hand-delivered on the Saturday morning. And over the last few elections, that's getting more and more people hand-delivering them. They don't trust the post, or they leave it too late, so they've got to hand it in. Or they simply just say, I've got to vote, and it's 10 o'clock on the Saturday morning, so they rush out and they'll vote. And then the final results, that will come through by Friday the 17th of October, and that will be it. That's the final declaration, and that's one that can be challenged if necessary.
Getting back to our CEs, if I'm currently employed by the Northern Regional Council or Far North District Council, what are the rules around standing for elections?
you can stand for election just like anybody else who wants to stand for election. You'll need to notify your organisation that you're doing that, and depending on what your role is within the organisation, we might need to come to some agreement as to what role you're playing at council if you're standing as an elected member. But yes, you can definitely stand. However, if you are voted in and actually become a councillor at whether that's the Northern Regional Council or the District Council, you'll have to resign as an employee. You can't be both a councillor and a staff member of a council at the same time. You're either in the governance space or you're in the staff management space.
There is an exception to that, if I could interject there. For community board members, you can still be an employee and a community board member, but definitely you're right there with a councillor. You cannot be both. Yeah.
Dale, a clearly one for you while I'm thinking about it. And I think it's a little bit grey because I remember looking at it. If I am an employee of the Northern Regional Council and I stand for the Far North District Council, so I'm an employee of one council and I stand for the other council, there's nothing stock standard about whether you can remain as an employee there. It's basically an employment discussion, isn't it?
I believe you can, yes.
Yes.
There you go. In terms of, we touched a little bit about this, and I might come to you, Mayor Clutha, just around the impacts on family. Are there any aspects of the role that could impact a candidate's family or spouse that they should be aware of in this role, in these roles?
Yeah, this is a really important one. So first and foremost, you've got to realise that the day that you put your name forward, life will change, and the day you get elected, things really change, and you'll never be yourself again, and that radiates out to your family and your loved ones, and that's good. You know, there's a pride. You've become a councillor, or have you become a mayor, but there's also that 1% and I want to focus probably more on the 1%. So don't take this all as bad, because so much of it is, boy, the turbo blast of first becoming a councillor, the pride of the family, don't underestimate that. But I know that when I confronted a few of the gnarlier issues in our community, and you get the heckles up of some people, there's a bit of mental health issue, there's a bit of, it's just personality, there are psychopaths out in your society. I know that one issue I did, they took to my kids. My son was doing his apprenticeship building and he had a bag with his tools in it. They sent a message back to me because they filled the bag up with water. I was pretty annoyed with that one, but then I really found out what happened when we start gearing up and when the death threats come through and when the police are coming involved and things get serious. So my wife started following on Facebook. She slept with a weapon under her pillow for 6 months. I had a real job trying, you know, as a man and as a father and as an everything. My wife would constantly say, this prick is coming to our house. You're out every night at a meeting. It's me that's going to answer the door. And it really weighed heavily on our whole family. Now, please realise this is the 1%. And that's what I touched on before of how much do you open. I think the social issues, if I had my chance again, I would still open up and I would go for it. But boy, don't think that it's just you that's taking it on. It's your family, it's your loved ones. If they can get to your weak point, what do you think your weak point is? It's the ones you love. So, I don't know, probably having some boundaries around it. I think it's really good that LGNZ's trying to put through a remit that we get money to put security cameras around the house. I've had people come home and it gets pretty scary when I'm an old man. I might delude myself that I could still do it, but probably can't. And then it's happening. So don't take it the wrong way. Take the 99%, the good ones, embrace it, love everything about it, but don't be naive enough to think that there won't be individuals out there in your community that won't take it too far, because there will be.
Good on. If I am of Māori descent, am I required to stand as a candidate in the Māori ward or constituencies?
No, anyone can stand for either. So you just need to be a parliamentary elector anywhere in New Zealand, so you don't even have to live here to stand. So you just need to be a parliamentary elector. So you can be on the general roll and stand for the Māori ward, or you can be on the Māori roll and stand for the general roll. So it's really no difference there. But you must be nominated by 2 electors from the area that you're standing in. So if you are standing in the Māori ward or constituency, then you must be nominated by 2 electors from the Māori roll for that ward or constituency.
I think one of the things that gets overlooked sometimes is that for those of us that have tribal connections, ancestral connections in Taitokoro, we have a concern, our daily concern as an individual, how we interact with all of the community activities that has been so well explained. We also have generations, centuries old connection with the place, which is similar to our kin. So the Māori candidates that stand have to weigh up quite clearly and carefully, am I doing this because of my personal perspective, which is valid, or is it an ancestral, wider kinship perspective, which is also valid, which is the real benefit, I think, of the Māori ward. Perhaps for some of the other panel members, even Mayor Brian and Clutha, not sure. I'm not too interested in areas outside of my home area up here, but I'm not even sure if there's a Māori ward in Clutha. But is there any other perspectives about this?
I currently, like the Clutha district is 6,700 square kilometres, and we don't even have a marae. And I see it as a real weakness. I saw it as such a strength and such a cohesive. I loved what the far north had, and I come down home and it's not there. But I'll take it even one step further. I was the first one to utter te reo in our council chamber. Think about it. If I do a te reo, and I will always do a te reo welcome at the start, I get called out every single time at a meeting, what the hell are you doing that for? So is there a Māori ward? We're so far away down here from that it's embarrassing. And that's why I love the far north, and I love, you're in a different world and you should be so proud of the world you're in, but we've got a few battles to go before we get to that stage. It's embarrassing, sorry.
Kia ora. Just on that point, in terms of representation, if you're standing in the Māori ward, do you only represent that ward and vice versa?
You get elected from the ward that you're standing in, but once elected, you represent the whole. So that's a really important point.
Yeah, so all electors, all councillors take an oath at the start, and the oath is to represent the entire district or the entire region.
Correct. So the Māori ward councillors have a full vote, same as the equivalent of all the other councillors. Probably worth noting that this year we have a referendum on Māori wards, which is very important for this district, I think. So we'll wait and see what happens there. But for sure, Northland has I would say, the whole of New Zealand, we have a very rich and diverse culture up here. Which is quite, and I think local elections with the Māori wards are quite inclusive of that. So the poll, or the referendum, is very important this year.
Anything else to add before I gear shift? I might just gear shift a little.
Only to add, I guess, is that adding to there is a poll on Māori wards, Māori constituencies as part of the elections this time. There is most likely information on Far North District Council. There is on Northern Regional Council as to the reasons why councils have previously made the decision around establishing Māori wards or Māori constituencies. The previous council for NRC made the decision to establish them because they wanted to ensure that there was Māori representation at the decision-making table.
Well, anō te tahi reira, that very comment in Hariruna Waitangi, yes.
Yeah, kia ora.
And so that is a key referendum question this election. So I encourage people to go out there and have a look at the information that's out there and get informed about it, because that will be a question to vote on at this coming election as well.
So basically, any councils that established Māori wards since 2020 without holding a poll, the changes in legislation, changes in government, forced all those councils, and there's about 43 of them throughout the country, to hold a poll. It is a binding poll, so it's basically a question, I vote to keep Māori wards, or I vote to remove Māori wards. I've tried to keep the question quite simple and easily understood. But it is binding, so the outcome is binding for the 2028 and 2031 elections. So those with Māori wards or constituencies will still have them for the 25-28 year, but the outcome in 25 will apply for 28 and 31. So whatever the outcome, it can't be revisited until 2032.
Adele, will that require then another referendum in 31?
No, it won't, depending on what the outcome is. So if the outcome is, no, we do not want Māori wards, then they cannot occur, and then the decision can be revisited in 2032. Yeah.
Thank you. I didn't know that. Just shifting gear a bit, how is the remuneration decided for mayor, councillors, chair? Dale? Oh,
No.
it's a yes.
Pick it off, John.
Remuneration for council. So the Remuneration Authority essentially sets a pool for each council, and there's a mathematical methodology that's there that the remuneration goes through. It's about the size of your council, the complexity of the business that you do. So they set across the country for each council a pool of funds that is available for each council. The Remuneration Authority also sets what the remuneration is for your mayor or your chair, if it's a district or regional council. Then and then they also set a base salary for each councillor. And for NRC, and I'm going off the top of my head now because I don't have the notes right in front of me.
I can't read right here. Maybe someone else can read there for me.
Which one are you looking at?
Chair of the regional council is $138,000, and then our base payment for councillors is $72,000. Then council basically has a discussion based on, and usually it's based on the deputy chair, what's an additional amount that council wants to pay to the deputy chair. It's basically based on the duties that each councillor has. So for NRC, we've provided an extra amount for the deputy chair. We've then, based on the governance structure that the council says, so the council has to come in. Once it comes in, for NRC, you elect a chair, you elect a deputy chair, you then establish your governance structure. And based on the governance structure, your remuneration is determined based on the number of governance structures, whether you're the chair of a committee or not. NRC, we've tried over the last couple of terms to try and make sure that all councillors have an even workload. So we try and look at trying to provide equity across all of our councillors for the level of workload, governance workload that they've got. Hence, we then provide recommendations to the Remuneration Authority that everyone gets paid the same. But it's up to the incoming council essentially as to what model they want to run. And I know different councils do different ways of doing it. Just while I'm talking about remuneration, when you come into council also around expenses, each council will have an expense and allowance policy. A part of that is set by the Remuneration Authority as well. Some of the details around like mileage sort of things. The essential, the basic premise of it is, though, if you're a councillor and you're doing council work, council should cover the reasonable costs that you incur to be a councillor, whether it's accommodation, whether it's covering your meals, mileage, air travel, those sorts of things. And we've got an allowance and expenses policy that provides guidance around how that works.
Not much to add. It's quite a complex equation. There's lots of ways the remuneration can be in mayor and councillors, and then obviously the remuneration authority has to sign off on that.
Just on that point, you talked about kind of council workload. Can councillors work remotely nowadays?
Yeah, definitely. Again, each council is going to be slightly different. This is my third one of these sessions. I've been to the Whangarei District one and the Kaipara District one, and every council works slightly differently. For NRC, we very much run a hybrid model where we have both in-person and online meetings. Usually for any workshop or meeting, you can do both. Sometimes if it's a more complex topic that we're talking about, we try and encourage councillors to all be there in person, but particularly for the regional council, we've got councillors coming from the entire region, so from a long way away. So we really do try and support a hybrid work environment to try and help balance your council commitments and your out-of-council commitments as well.
Yeah, same kind of district. We had maintained hybrid arrangements with, obviously not sort of kicked off with COVID, but then when the Mangamukas closed for over a year, then it was difficult for councillors and board members to come down from Te Hiku. So extensive travelling. But generally, our mayor in this training has encouraged in-person meetings, and we have quite a strong tradition of doing that, and workshops, so we get good turnout of people in the chambers here in Kaikoai.
Kawatu, I wonder if I can just also segue into sort of like workload for councillors. Like, and again, each council is slightly different. So for NRC, for the chair is pretty much, if you're thinking about wanting to be the chair for the regional council, it's pretty much a full-time job. If you're wanting to be a councillor for the regional council, I would say it's around 2 to 3 days a week. And we also try and provide some certainty for elected members around what days are going to be council days versus what days you can plan your out of council activity. So for NRC for this term, we've had Tuesdays and Wednesdays as our primary days that we try and get all of our council meetings, council workshops, committee meetings into that Tuesday, Wednesday slot, so that you've got certainty that the Monday, Thursday, Friday are yours. Having said that, we've also got a bunch of joint committees. So, the Regional Transport Committee, Civil Defence Committee that have all local government on. So if you're on those sorts of committees, they're often outside of that Monday, Tuesday. So you might have commitments that are across the Monday or the Tuesday, the Thursday, Friday. What we also try and do is do a year calendar. So at the start of the term, once we get some direction from council as to which days are you going to be your preferred days of working, we then also confirm a calendar of committee meetings over the entire year. So you can see it out for the year, you can plan around it. We try and plan the meetings as best we can around what the preferences of councillors. There will be clashes though, but we very much try and work with you to try and get a schedule that works. But it is busy. I think it's just worth making sure that you're clear about what the work commitment and the time commitment is if you're looking at joining standing for council.
Can I just also ask, in terms of the role of a chair, how does it the mayor?
Subject matter is the only difference. I think the roles are essentially the same, aren't they? Although I guess the mayors are more public-facing, high-profile in the communities, aren't they? I think the chair of a regional council is different in that respect.
There's also the mayor here. It's interesting as to why there's some differences. But so the mayor, you vote for a mayor, as in all constituents vote for a mayor. For the chair, though, the chair, you don't vote for a chair. The chair is actually voted for by the other councillors, and that's basically because if you voted for the chair, because it's over such a large region, wherever your largest population base is, so for Tautokoro, Whangarei, you're most likely that your chair for the regional council is always going to come from Whangarei. because that's where your largest population base and voter base is. So the idea is that your chair is actually selected by your councillors, so that the chair can come from anywhere across the region. And also your deputy chair is voted by councillors. For being a mayor, you vote for a mayor. Mayor also then has some different powers to a chair. The mayor can then appoint their own deputy chair. The mayor also has the ability to set the governance structure and appoint the chairs to that governance structure. And then, Guy, you're dead right. The mayor's got some other civic duties and civic functions that a chair of a regional council doesn't have. But they've both got a leadership role amongst councillors.
Brian, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, if I could, please, once again from a political side. So if I focus specifically on the role of mayor and how it's different from councillors, I was a councillor from 1998 for 12 years, and you sort of can flex your muscle, but you don't quite have the say or the hold. As soon as you become a mayor, things get different, and I want to touch, if I can, or dwell on it for a moment, the various roles that a mayor has, because I think the candidates have to be aware of it. So firstly, the biggest role is the one that you have between yourself and the CEO. It's the most important relationship. Sorry, guys, but we're not meant to be friends. We're meant to be friendly, and we're meant to be professional, but I believe the best relationship between a mayor and the CEO is like a rugby captain and a rugby coach. You're friendly, but you keep your distance, because there's just times where there's tension. And you also have to know that there is a clear demarcation line in councils between the political and the operational. Sometimes the CEO can drift over, but more often than not, it's the mayor that drifts over into the operational. And when they start meddling on the other side, all hell breaks loose. So you've got to know where you're meant to be and where you're not meant to be. The second one for a mayor is you've got to have a relationship that's different with your councillors. You've always got to go long game with them. I touched on the fact how sometimes you just have to suck it up. You know, that don't get too involved in the moment, look for the long game. And then there's the public, and if I can, please, if there's one thing I want to articulate tonight, it's this. As a mayor, I believe you've got a duty, you've got a democratic responsibility to have a vision, but that vision's got to be your own. I don't want to be disrespectful, but I see politicians that try and articulate a vision that's not theirs. The vision and what you're saying has got to come from your ticker, or you'll get caught out all the time and you'll be insincere. And so the most important thing is, if you're going to have a vision, if you're going to be a mayor, you've got to be yourself. And I've been mayor for 15 years now. My brother was mayor of Central Otago, and my other brother was a councillor for 27 years. And I think if I put it down to one thing for our longevity, whatever you say, what is it, was 70 odd years of elections there. Our mother had polio, and she was bedridden for most of her life, and she used to go weirdly deep. So I want to share something that she shared with us that I think all candidates should think and dwell on, because it's about being yourself. And Mum always slammed into us. Any fool can make a political decision, but can that decision withstand moral scrutiny? Analyse and reanalyse your decision to ensure that it always aligns with your values and principles, because it's not until you have done that that you have made your decision, and only you can beat yourself. Now, if you actually think of it, when you're a mayor and when you're a councillor, it's quite isolating. When you're on your own. If you're insincere, if you're trying to live someone else's vision, you will get caught out constantly. Believe in yourself, find out who yourself is, and then hold on to it. Because I found, especially in the second, when I went in for my second term, it was a bloody tight election. And if I didn't believe in myself and I tried to come up with a vision for someone else, I would have lost. And I would have always looked back and I thought, what did I do that for? I didn't lose. I allowed someone else's vision to lose. Be true to yourself, and if you lose, well, you haven't lost anything. So please go away tonight with one thing, trying to work out what your vision is and who you're going to be, who you are to make who you are going to be as a councillor or a mayor. Kia ora, sorry, talk too much, eh?
No, beautiful. Thank you. Just on that, I want to ask a couple of things. Community board members, their role, but also just on the same trajectory we're heading here is the qualities and skills that an elected member it's good to have, or what are the qualities and skills that an elected member should have when considering standing? So there's two questions there, but I might just come over.
You want me to start?
Yes, please, Guy.
There's no specific CV required to become an elected member. So we have elected members from all backgrounds. So there's, in terms of skills and knowledge, well, I think we encourage a broad range of people to get involved. In terms of qualities, well, you need to have integrity. You need to be able to speak your mind. You need to be able to represent the people who voted for you. Be straightforward. Have integrity. A starter from me.
I can add something to it, but I wonder if Mayor Cadogan, you want to...
I think the one thing that breaks down any elected member is if they're not honest to themselves and honest to others. I know that, from time to time, you get someone trying to pull the wool over your eyes, they're finished. You never have anything to do with them. You'll stuff them up at any opportunity you get. If you're going to be an elected member and you think you can get away with lying, it'll catch up with you and you're done for. So the number one thing that you have to be is be true to yourself and be true to others. And if you come from the heart, well, you're doing your best, aren't you?
If I can maybe just add a little bit to it maybe more from a CEO's perspective as well, then like some of the when you're there as a councillor, it's blooming busy. And I'm sure Mayor Cadogan, you can account for that. There's a hell of a lot of work. There's a lot of reading. There's a lot of material that's going to come your guys' way. Unfortunately, there are some big agendas.
That's this week. I'm not joking. That's this week. Drives you bloody nuts.
so you need to be able to work your way through. Like you make big decisions. There's lots of material that you need to be able to work your way through, synthesize to be able to come up with your own position on any given topic. Because then you're going to have to vote in a council meeting on a particular decision. So there's time management is an important skill to be able to have. To be able to actually then get through all of the work. Technical skills, technology. We use a lot of technology now. So we'll provide you laptops, we'll provide you cell phones, but I saw all the paper there, Mayor Cadogan. We try as much as we can to be electronic. So we get through a lot more work by using emails and having electronic documents, and we provide a lot of support around that as well. Another skill is you're there as you're a public figure. So you're going to be there, your community will be expecting you to turn up on the eye, at community meetings, to be able to represent council. So public speaking and being able to articulate the council decision or council position or your position is important. I go back as well to relationship building skills. Being able to work as a part of a team and to be able to work with your other councillors and with the staff to be able to make a difference, get decisions made. You need to be able to build a relationship with your other councillors to be able to get the majority vote for where you're trying to take the direction for the council. I think I'll stop there, but you're joining a team. I guess that's part of the last thing that I'd like to sort of say there is you're not there as an individual, or if you are there as an individual, it will be hard to get things done through before you do it. And again, I'm sure Mayor Cadogan will probably agree. 3 years goes really, really fast. All of a sudden elections come round and the number of councillors that sit there and go, holy jingos, where did that 3 years go? What have I achieved in that 3 year term? So you really need to be able to have some clear views on what you want to achieve, how you want to achieve it, and then work with your other councillors to get there.
And one other hint that I've got is If for some reason you haven't read your agenda, don't ask questions. The number of times I've seen a councillor and the answer's on the next page, if you're bothered to read it, you will catch yourself out every time if you don't read, but you start asking questions.
Anything else there? Cool. Just following the same train of thought there, in terms of skills and training, or rather the training you get when you come into, if you're become an elected member, there's kind of skills around, or tech skills. How techie do you need to be as an elected member? There's also the induction process and training around everything you need to know to set you up for success as an elected member. So yeah, and also we have high population of Māori, so that expectation to know kind of cultural aspects to the role as well, or te reo Māori, how much does that play a part in the training that one receives as an elected member?
Oh, producer, school.
No. Well, let's start with the techie stuff.
I can kick us off maybe. If you're new coming into council, we are quite a complicated machine at times, but we will run a process to bring you up to speed with all of the different things that council does. You won't come in and just get chucked into your first meeting where you're expected to make decisions on navigation and safety bylaws without us running through a process with you to clearly explain what the navigation and safety bylaws are, what the different things you need to be thinking about in making that decision. So we do run quite an intense sort of, before I said sort of generally 2 days a week for a councillor. Between October and Christmas, I would say it's more intense. That's there's like an induction process that we go through to try and bring all councillors up to the same speed on all of the different things. You've got standing orders. Standing orders is how our council meetings are run. If you don't understand how standing orders work, then it'll be challenging for you to be able to operate in the council meetings and the decision-making process. So we provide all the legislative training, all of the standing orders training. Yes, we provide IT, but we provide a lot of support around, everyone's got different levels of tech knowledge, and if it's low, we provide more support. If it's high, then you don't need any other support that we provide. But we very much do provide a lot of wraparound training and support to make sure that you're supported in the decision-making process that you're there to do. Like for me as CE, one of my main jobs is to make sure that by the time councillors get into a room and they're needing to make a decision, they're feeling confident to be able to make that decision, because we've run a process that means that you know the topic, you understand what you're being asked to, you've got the information, you've had time to absorb the information so that you feel confident to make a decision when it gets there. You asked a question around te reo Māori. You don't have to know te reo to be a councillor. You don't have to know marae tikanga to be a councillor. We're in a community in the far north where we have a high population of Māori, and I think Nick Hogan said that there was no marae within your district. That's not the case in Taitokoro. So there's a lot of engagement with iwi and hapu as part of being a councillor. Again, we provide support though, and training and capacity building, and being able to engage with Māori and our iwi and hapu communities. So don't feel that you're going to come in and we'll just leave you off to it. We provide a lot of support to be able to fulfill your role as a councillor.
It pretty much covers it. I've worked in some pretty sharp-edged environments, trading floors in London and things, but councils, Far North District Council is a very warm and friendly culture. If you come in as a councillor, you will be welcomed, you'll be inducted, and certainly get all the training you need to go to the environment. We're culturally diverse and inclusive. You have all the opportunities in the world to get as involved as you want in our Te Ao Māori programs, learning about tikanga if you're not knowledgeable in that area. But yeah, it's very inclusive.
Good. I just wanted to touch on the regional district council again. If I'm considering standing for both Far North District Council and the Northern District Regional Council, am I allowed to stand for both, and what are the rules around that?
Simply no. You've got to choose under the legislation. You choose the region, or you choose the territorial authority. You can't do both.
And where can I submit nominations? A nomination form for NRC or FNDC.
So if you pick up a book, we've got a Far North District and a Northern Regional book at the back there. All the details are in there. The difference from 3 years ago is that we had a legislative change, and we're now able to have electronic nominations. So that's a really good advancement. So you register, you're able to fill it out at your leisure, as long as, of course, it's submitted by the close of nominations. And on that portal, you can attach your candidate profile statement, your photograph, your proof of citizenship, your payment, evidence of payment, all that sort of thing goes in there. And it goes back to your nominators, which is a really good check, goes back to the nominators to sign, but in that process, it checks those nominators against the electoral roll, which is attached to that, and that will stop if you have an ineligible nominator right at that stage, which is really good. So that's the electronic one. We also have the hard copy ones. They will be available from the council offices. From, I think, Far North has 8, and Northern Region has about 4, I think, offices where you can pick one up. They're also available on the website, the respective council's website, in an editable PDF, so you can download it, fill it out, and then print it out and take it in. So there's a number of ways of doing that. The key point to note is nominations open next Friday, the 4th of July. They close at midday on Friday, the 1st of August. So the key thing to note is don't be late. At 12 o'clock on the dot, that's it. If you come in 1 minute past 12, sorry, we can't accept it. So it's really, really important to get it in and get it in accurately, so that we can do all our checks and balances, and you can go away satisfied that your nomination is in order.
Dale, just to hammer that one home, like I've seen people come in with like on the day or the day before closing, and there have been inaccuracies with their forms. They haven't been able to correct them before the close-off time, and they've missed out. So, like, I just want to stress the point that Dale made there. Don't leave it to the last minute. Just before I open it up to the floor for if any questions we have before we wrap up. Brian, you mentioned how important the relationship between Mayor and CE is. I just wanted to further that particular point for elected members. How closely do you work with the staff and at council, elected members and the staff? And is it easy to get information when you need it? Do you communicate directly with staff as elected members?
So we have a real neat relationship here where I suppose, you know, small community, probably like yourself, we know each other, so we tend to have it that all the time. I've been here since 1998. I drift off and I talk to any staff member, but that's actually inappropriate. Technically, it's only the CEO that you should engage with. The CEO might direct that you're allowed to talk to senior management. We've got a real rarity that we just wander around and talk to anyone. And where it gets dangerous is because I know a neighbouring council had that, and next thing you get PGs because the councillor spits off at a staff member, things go haywire. So there's reasons, you know, that's that tension. Yeah, you got to be friendly, but you're not friends. You're professional. You can't go and do the blah blahs to a staff member. You got no right to. So that relationship, if I really took it technical, is the councillors should always have a direct line of where they go, which starts at the CEO, and he or she might delegate. We have a lucky one, but we all know, and I really give it to the councillors in that first induction, if anyone goes and blows it, you know, we're going to be mighty peeved off, because it's something quite neat to be able to go and talk to the appropriate staff member about a particular issue, but things can go haywire in a hurry. But we've managed to maintain that relationship for a long time. So touch wood, but I think it's a rarity in councils.
Good on. Yeah, if I can add for the regional council, it's not too dissimilar to what Mia Cadogan's just sort of outlined. Councillors employ the CE employs the rest of the staff, so the CEs are councillors only, technically the only employee. For the regional council, yes, it's easy for councillors to get information. We provide it generally to all councillors, so all councillors get the same information at the same time. It's not like one councillor gets a specific bit of information just because they asked it, and then other councillors don't know about it. So we generally provide briefings to councillors on whatever topics that they're looking for. We'll have council workshops on particular topics that they're wanting to understand more and have a more in-depth knowledge of. Usually it's in the lead up to a decision that council needs to make. At NRC, we run a similar process to what Mayor Cadogan said, where we say, councillors, you can engage directly with myself, obviously, and with our first level of management, so our group managers. And then our group managers, if there's further information that people are asking for or inquiries, they'll go back down into the bowels of the organisation to get those answers and provide them back to councillors. So yeah, we sort of say it's CE and group manager level for direct engagement. Sometimes during the term, if it's around Enviro schools and it's around organising, going out to Enviro schools and stuff, that might not necessarily just have to go through the group manager. It might be directly with a staff member, but we do sort of keep it at that CE group manager level.
Yeah, look, technically that's correct. I'm employed by the mayor and councillors. I report actually to all of them, mayor and councillors. Sometimes it's CE just reports. Formally, our comms are that elected members may communicate with our group managers, so the top level of management. But then you've got to remember there's an awful lot of communication going on, workshops, council meetings. There's a lot of interaction between staff and elected members. We also have formal processes for communications via RFS systems, and we have an elected members system where elected members can put queries or questions through to staff. So, but what I've also seen is there's kind of an ebb and flow in terms of those communication arrangements. We've had some CEOs that have sort of opened up and allowed elected members to reach out to staff members directly, and then Mayor Cadogan, as you rightly point out, when that gets overdone, then it tends to go pear-shaped. You get too many conversations going on. You end up getting PGs because elected members upset some staff members, etc., etc. It just gets too complicated. So yeah, there is a balance point that you have to maintain in terms of comms.
If I can just pick up on one point that Mia Cadogan touched on as well, councillor, you're standing as in a leadership role and in a governance role. So the role that you're coming into is a governance one. And you can't be in governance and management at the same time. So if you're, was that?
Sorry, I was waving goodbye to the cleaner. I've got to lock the building up now. Sorry.
So the point I'm making is, if you're in the management space, how then can you be governance? So governance, you're making the decisions. Then you're monitoring staff's implementation of your decisions. If you're then getting into the management part of actually implementing the decision, then you can't perform your governance function to be able to monitor the implementation. That's where you hold me and staff to account of here's the decision, this is what we've said. So there is a boundary between governance and management, and it's because we play different roles in the system.
I just wanted to open it up just before we wrap up. If there are any further questions, yes, please.
Kia ora, I'm Venus Mulder. Thank you very much for your lovely karakia. And when I saw you, I thought, that's the opera singer that you did 2 weeks ago. I'm not sure it's fitting image of him, and indeed you were. So thank you for your waiata. Kia ora. I've got 4 questions, 2 for Guy, 1 for Bernard, and 1 for you, Dale. Communications, tea and coffee, STV, FPP, we haven't covered that, and hoardings. So I'll start with a really easy one. So communication, say for example, the Te Huku Business District is having a meet the candidate night. And how do I know about that? Well, I understand the Kitty Business Association is having a meet the candidate night. They don't know that I'm a candidate, so I haven't been invited. I'd love to attend. So in terms of comms coming back the other way, how do council work through the equity around that?
Very good question. Thank you, Olivia. I presume it's up on our website and multiple platforms, social media, but Casey can perhaps comment on that.
So yes, I can. Kia ora. Davina, thank you for your question. When you fill out your nomination form, you must tick a box that says that you allow for the public to access your personal information, contact information. All of the candidate forms, the front page of the forms are available for inspection at all of our service centers, and community groups of any kind throughout the district can grab that information of your details off of those forms and set up candidate information evening. Different from what is tonight, a candidate information evening, that would be more of a meet the candidate evening. Very good question, because not a lot of candidates know that, and they could potentially miss out from being invited. But it is something that you want to weigh out, whether or not you want to provide your personal information in that way so early or not. Yes.
More availability on that, should they go down that route. So, for example, that's following on with you, Matua Bernard, for the marae and network and Emi and Puffin, I would like to attend, but if I'm not actively in that space, then how would I know about that? And so what would be equitable and transparent way of communicating? We're encouraging candidates to come along to such and such a marae Wednesday night, 6 o'clock, come along, have the same, meet people, and how would I find out about that?
I'm afraid I'm not going to give you an easy answer. Marae committees, marae are generally organised around a committee. It's elected from the kinship community. Sometimes those are quite fiery discussions, and also they're quite full. There's lots to do with kinship communities, and it'll range from, who's on the roster for mowing the lawns at the marae and the urupa to renovations as a result of weather damage and that sort of thing. The best thing is to get to know people in the community, and each marae will have people who are known. In Māori we call it kanohi kite, a face that's known in the community, and begin to find times. Matariki is a good time of the year. Most marae have had activities over the last week or so. It's a little bit, unless you can find a connection into marae communities and marae trustees, it can mean that you could sit around for a long time hearing the business of that community, unless you find a way to connect with the chair. It's very similar to the elected committees and councils. Find a way into the chair and the key people within their community to find a way that you may be invited for a particular time. I've got to say, the words that I've heard tonight about integrity, generosity, honesty, those are human traits. As Māori communities, we have kind of indicators, I suppose, in the way we speak, the way we hold ourselves, the way we introduce ourselves, which is slightly different for other quarters of the community. We listen very carefully to the nature, what we call the ia, or the tone of people's presentation. and that can be determined very quickly because we're used to hearing people talk about us without involving us in the community.
So the Far North District Council don't have a position on you in that role during that year.
I'll let the CEs and people speak for them. I do.
I'm seeing your title here that you're with the Far North District Council.
I'm not.
I am.
Yes.
I'll bring it closer
Sorry,
for you.
now I understand your response. Sorry, I thought you were an employee of the Far North District
No,
Council.
I'm not.
Right.
This event is hosted by Far North District Council, so Granada's from.
Sorry, I was giving you multi-hats.
That's all right.
Okay.
I managed to answer them. So
We do have some roles available.
Dale.
I'm Dale. Yes.
First past the post.
Yes.
STV.
Yes.
Changing. Can you
Sorry?
Tell us
Who's
about
changing?
Yes, we're Far North District Council is single transferable voting, a form of preferential voting. Northern Regional Council is first past the post, remains first past the post. So there will be two different systems operating on the same voting document. It's just an awareness that when you're voting for the council and the community boards, it is a preferential voting. You vote by numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. And then you switch to the regional council and you tick.
and how are you socialising that amongst the community that that's the process? Because it's quite new for some people. They think it's just tick the box. They don't realise that. So I'm wondering if we've got a strategy or plan on how our community members.
Thank you again for your awesome question. There's voter information packs outside the door that are specific to that topic and a number of other topics. You're right, it is very confusing. Not only do we have a district and a regional, but we have two different voting systems. Not only that, but for the referendum, one is called the Māori Ward, one is called the Māori Ward constituency. So it just continues to sort of go down this snowball effect of, where do you start and how much do you share to not start to confuse the community who don't even realize that there are two different voting systems to consider. So we have what's available here tonight will also be available online for those of you visiting online. But we also have sort of a simplified version of what's available in the packs. One of the ways that we've tried to simplify that or to socialize it simply is images, pictures, just to say, if you're voting for this, you're actually going to rank them almost like what you might see on your voting document, but it's an example of, definitely not from an actual voting document, but an image, so you can
So you've got a
visualize.
bit of a budget there where you can start socialising that out to the community.
See, don't forget we've had STV since 2022.
Yes.
But this is not the first election with STV for Far North. We actually had it in 2022. And prior to that, of course, we had all the district health boards under that system as well. So it's not new, but it does require, yes, some more explanation.
Okay. Right, tea and coffee. Kind of tikanga to offer a cup of tea
Yes.
or coffee, and yet that's deemed as bribery.
No, it's not, because
So what's the line between a cake and a cappuccino? Seriously.
the Act says that you can have a candidate meeting and you can provide light refreshments. That's all the Act says, light refreshments. So it's a matter of interpretation. Tea, coffee, it could be a cappuccino, but you can't put on a full meal, for example, with a 5-course meal, and that would be deemed bribery. Yeah. Is that your last question, or you got another one?
It's number 4.
Okay.
No, hoardings. No, it wasn't. You're right. It was 3. Hoardings. So are the council able to advise us of where we can put them on council land, and so that everybody gets that information at the same time, so we all have equitable, transparent notification of where we can put our hoardings?
Sure. So you happy for me?
You go.
Oops. Okay. In the candidate information book, you should be able to find some more detailed information on both councils. We we have worked to try and align our bylaws and our hoarding policies and that to ensure that it's not too confusing. Once again, there's a big pull-up just behind you that gives you some details about what the hoardings are. And as Dale has mentioned earlier this evening, they can start to go up from the 9th of August. Sorry, I think John may have been the one that did it. 9th of August, they can go up, but they must be removed by midnight on the 10th of October. There's very specific details about the sizes. They can't have flashing lights to distract drivers. If you have more questions for Far North District Council, get in touch with me and I can take those offline for you.
And just double checking, Dale, for regional council, noting that you're clearly not standing for the regional council, but come and talk to me later. I might be able to make you change your mind. Our provisions are exactly the same around
regional council follows the territorial authority.
So or up here, so it's the district council bylaws that provide the clarity around where you put up your hoardings. So it's just different for regional council whether you're standing in the Whangarei district, the Kaikoura district, or the Far North district, but they won't be different within district.
Thank you for your questions. Thank you for everybody attending tonight. And I just wanted to also take the time to thank our panelists. Tēnā koutou katoa. Matua, Brian, online there. Thank you for zooming in.
Can I make one last statement, please?
Leave the hand. Yes, of course. Please do.
My apologies, but I do want to first thank you. It's been an absolute tonic to re-engage with the Far North. And I think you've got such a beautiful area. But if I could say one thing, please, to the candidates, that politics waits for no one. It's so easy to come up with an excuse why you don't want to do it. And over my time in politics, especially, it's probably been the jump from councillor to mayor. But you hear people, I'll do it in 3 years' time. Just do it. We all get imposter syndrome. We all get tight in the guts. We all get scared. But there's one simple way to become a candidate. Just put your name forward and let it go. And what do you got to lose? So to all candidates, thank you for coming along tonight, or potential candidates, thank you for coming along tonight. My apologies, I would have loved to have come up there, but things are a wee bit busy down here. But my one parting thing is, we all get imposter syndrome. We all get terrified at the thought of it. Get through that 2 minutes of fear, put your name forward, and all the very best. Kia ora.
If I could just add a final comment, and it goes back, Kauti, to your first question. You're going to be standing to be a councillor because you're really passionate about something. Make sure you stand for the right council.
Choice. Well, I'll reiterate that kōrero Uncle Bernard, ko anoi konei, ko tātou anoi konei. We're here to our candidates, go hard, reiterating what Brian just said, and just really acknowledging also all the staff and those who have done all the work behind the scenes. Tēnā koutou ki te kore e tika o mua. E kore e tika muri and vice versa. If the things back don't go well, we can't do anything out front. Reira, tēnei te mihi kia tātou I tēnei pō, māku te karakia e whakakopania ki ngā kōrero. I'll close us off with a karakia and then we can have a cup of tea and a bite on your way out. Reira, light refreshments, light. Sydney light, no, Northland tai tokero light. Ai anō rai, whane tēnei ke karakia hau. Mānawa mai te putanga o te ariki, mānawa mai te putanga o te taura o te tauira, kai ke rongo rupe, kai ke rangi tāhua ki te puna o te whatu anuku, tēnei te whatu kei au, kei te kāinga tapu te mauri, tū te whiwhi anuku, tū te whiwhi arangi, kei te whiwhi awako, kei te rawe o maiho. Tēnei te mauri, ka whakairi hiake, o te mauri o ngā kōrero, te mauri o ia tāngata, te mauri hoki, o tēnei whānau te whakairi hiake. Ki runga, kia tīna, taumie, huie, tāiki. Tērā.
Well, thank you very much. Lovely meeting you too. I'm